Sorry, I guess I should turn my microphone on. We'll call the meeting to order. The first item of business, we want to welcome our new committee member, Senator Reginald Thomas.
I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you, sir. All right, Madam Secretary, with that said, will you call the roll?
Senator Girdler. Senator Maiden. Senator Thomas. Representative Petrie.
Here.
Representative Stalker.
Present.
Representative Thomas.
Present.
Co-Chair Fromeyer.
Present.
Chair McPherson.
Present. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second motion. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So minutes are approved. All right. Kathleen, will you report the correspondence from the information items?
Pursuant to KRS 45760 sub 5, the University of Kentucky reported a $216,250 federally funded research equipment purchase for the William R. Willard Medical Education Building. Pursuant to KRS 45760 sub 6, UK reported the use of federal and private funds rather than restricted funds for 2 of its capital projects. Pursuant to KRS 45812 sub 1, through their fiscal agents, 2 school districts, neither of which needed additional tax levies to pay debt service, reported upcoming general obligation debt issues to finance new projects. Those school districts were McGoffin County and Owen County. Pursuant to KRS 5682311A, the Division of Real Properties recorded 2 square footage lease modifications under $50,000. Pursuant to House Bill 6 and 1, Eastern Kentucky University and Northern Kentucky University reported asset preservation project revisions. Last month, in accordance with House Bill 6, the Kentucky Communications Network Authority provided information on the Kentucky Wired Critical Infrastructure. KCNA's responses to the committee's queries are included in the packet, and KCNA representatives are in the audience.
You need to turn your microphone on, green, just like I've been needing to. So.
Yep. First off, I'd like to thank the committee for
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Yes. I am Brad Kilby, the CEO of Accelicom.
Okay, you may proceed.
First, I'd like to thank the committee for...
Can I say one thing just before we get started?
Yes, sir.
You know, so we asked and discussed and sent a letter out. We do want to keep this in confines of the huts. You know, this committee is over the money for the huts and the appropriation for that. So we're going to ask that you keep your comments in regard to the huts and the construction of those and the payments of those. Thank you.
Understood. First off, I'd like to thank the committee for recognizing me and providing me an opportunity to address this committee. As I mentioned before, I am Brad Kilby, the CEO of Accelicom Holdings. I am here today to detail to you just one example, the huts of KCNA's incompetence and malfeasance committed by its current leadership team, specifically its Executive Director, Douglas Hendricks, General Counsel, Adam Adkins, and its Chairman, John Hicks. Under this current leadership, KCNA has presented to this committee, the courts, and the public a narrative built on falsehoods to cover up its own neglect and failures. Let me state several facts for the record around the huts. KCNA has not rendered payment for the huts despite claiming otherwise. They have made no attempt to confirm receipt of payment and transfer ownership. Accelicom remains the legal and rightful owner of the huts. KCNA provided testimony to this committee that the Commonwealth now owns and has fully paid for the 20 communication shelters, or huts. This is not the truth. Last year, KCNA requested $12 million from the General Assembly to purchase the huts from Accelicom. Please note that we only own the huts because KCNA had let them fall into such disrepair that they were no longer usable and would cause the network to fail. They had to be replaced. We were asked to step in and address the condition of the huts, which we did, with the understanding that the state would later reacquire them from us. In an attempt to buy back, KCNA advised that they sent a check for $8 million. Not only was that the incorrect amount, but we have never received that payment. KCNA claims to have mailed another payment, but we have not received that payment either, nor are we aware if it's for the correct amount. They have failed to contact Accelicom to confirm receipt and to finalize the purchase of the huts. Would any responsible party send a check totaling $8 million of the taxpayers' money via the U.S. Postal Service, and have followed up to make sure, and not followed up to make sure that the right person in the purchase of the transaction of such valuable assets had been finalized? The reality is that's exactly what KCNA did. As has since publicly proclaimed that they now own the huts without any official paperwork documenting the transaction, this lack of regard for taxpayer dollars and for infrastructure is not only astounding, it's disappointing. And that's the real problem on hand with KCNA, even beyond the huts. Unelected bureaucrats are endangering valuable public infrastructure through woeful disregard for the best interests of the Commonwealth, and are now attempting to cover up their failures with deception. Despite the endless list of excuses and falsehoods, one common thread remains. KCNA leadership has, at best, failed to do their job, and at worst, purposely put Kentucky Wired on a path to ruin. Kentucky taxpayers deserve better and should demand accountability and immediate action to restore the promise of Kentucky Wired and to protect this significant investment in the state's future. Accelicom is grateful that this committee is looking into this matter, and we will support your efforts in any way. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Preacher? Representative Preacher?
Thank you. I just want to make sure you were clear, but I want to make sure that I understand you, and there's a few points that are of concern to me in particular, bedrock concern. We receive agency requests for money in the budget process, and we go through those and vet those as best we can. And we've had multiple requests relative to Kentucky Wired, KCNA, that project. It has its problems over time, and we've dealt with those requests. This one particular request, I'm going to go back and pull it, and then I may ask the administration for each of the requests that have come relative to the huts and everything else on KCNA, Kentucky Wired. And this one in particular gets me, because so that means we've got 12, you've not received the $8 million.
Correct, sir.
You've not received it as of this date.
That is accurate.
And another check that has been, another payment that's been referenced, you've not received it either.
That is accurate.
And do you think it was more or less than the $8 million that was told to you?
Unfortunately, sir, we have not received the check, so I cannot speculate.
Just another check.
Yes.
And you've really received nothing out of this, at least what we would think, 12 million plus appropriation. You've received nothing out of that yet.
That is an accurate assessment.
Are you of any understanding whatsoever that, if I may, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Are you
Continue.
any understanding whatsoever that someone else has received this money?
There has been no follow-up with myself. I am the CEO. All functions report up to me, so there's not an individual at Accelicom that has received these alleged check or checks.
And would there be some other third party that would have received this or could have received this money through KCNA?
I'm not best to speak to that. That may be the Commonwealth. They sent it via the U.S. Postal Service.
But you're unaware.
I am unaware.
Yeah, well, yeah, alarming. So I've got 12 million plus. I've got to chase down. It's not being used, or it's been used, and we can't find out where it was used.
Yeah, Representative Petrie, I can't speak for you, but if I was personally cutting a check, or I was having Accelicom issue a check to one of our subcontractors or suppliers, I would not issue that via the U.S. Postal Service.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that I've read or been told or come across this. This has been an ongoing issue for a while. There's a lawsuit pending. Is there anything in the lawsuit that would tell us where the 12 million's gone to?
There are a number of matters right now that are going through our dispute resolution in regards to where these alleged
Excuse me,
checks are.
There
No.
may be I acknowledge lawsuit.
Yep.
Is there anything in the lawsuit that may help inform me on my prior questions about where's the $12 million at?
Not that I'm aware of. We have not received the check or alleged checks.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does any other member have questions at this time? Senator Fromeyer?
Thank you for giving us a little bit more background on this as we were trying to dig into a better understanding. There's additional information provided that perhaps the wholesalers in breach of an agreement and failing to avoid costs. Can you give us any better understanding as to what sort of breach is being referred to?
What I would highlight is there have been a number of false allegations and false assertions that have been made. Each of those items right now is at different phases within the dispute resolution process, in some instances in the Franklin County Circuit Court.
And I don't fully understand from our last visit, information that's been provided to us as we requested. I'm having a difficult time understanding the revenue share that is being referred to in response. Perhaps the wholesaler has some revenue share.
Yes, what I would like to do in the spirit of time, we can arrange for a follow-up conversation. It's fairly in-depth, but what I would share is at a high level as part of being the exclusive partner to the Commonwealth on helping them monetize and commercialize the excess capacity. There is a portion of the revenue in which a portion of that is allocated to the Commonwealth, and then a portion of that is retained by Accelicom. And that differs depending on two different types of services.
Thank you for that. And then has a portion of that revenue share been paid out to you?
So each quarter, we issue, per our contractual obligation, a revenue report to the Kentucky Communications Network Authority, and we share with them the status of the revenue share, and then we issue checks based on the revenue share, based on the calculations.
And are you withholding any of those revenue share dollars from KCNA in light of not being paid the $12 million due?
No, that is the answer explicitly is no. There's nothing being held back.
Thank you. This is rather confusing to me, and I'm frustrated that we've come to this place.
Yes, and as I mentioned before, we will support your efforts in answering any questions in a follow-up session should this committee request that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I had just a question or two. So then, let me follow this. You all originally had a contract of about $7.7 million to redo these huts, 20 huts, and then you had 10% above that. Was the work done on the huts?
Yes, the work was completed. All of those huts are operational, and they're being used both by KCNA in support of the constituents that they provide services to across the Commonwealth, whether that's state agencies, state-funded universities, or KCTCS. And those HUTs are also being leveraged by Acelicom to support our customers.
Were there requests made to change the huts in design or upgrade the huts in any way?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. So when our two parties first started working together, parties were working in good faith. There were ongoing calls, meeting minutes, and during those calls, in many instances, there were requests made by KCNA, both in writing as well as orally, asking that we make modifications above and beyond what was originally designed. Parties agreed to make those changes, and as a result, the dollar figures that you reference, there were costs incurred above and beyond the original scope of work in the specifications.
Okay, thank you. And there is, like you say, documentation to prove that?
Yes, there is, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Chair Petrie?
And really, it's to the co-chairs of the committee more than anything else. I would at least ask for y'all to consider requesting of the administration any agency requests on behalf of KCNA Kentucky Wired since its inception, almost, if not from inception till now, agency requests that have at least either all the requests or any request that has resulted in it passing through this committee previously.
Okay, I can make that known, make that available, make a letter to do that.
Please.
All right. Does anybody else have any? Do we need a motion for that?
I want to make sure that I've stated that out loud for the record. Y'all can think about whether or not that is, you may want to check with staff and see what kind of burden that is and if that's easily accomplished, or we can talk about whether there's an easier way to come up with the information. But I think it may be informative to the committee. We've got one issue of HUTs before us now at 12 million or thereabout. What issues have come before this committee previously that may be brought into question?
Just looking at the whole picture.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we'll take that into advisement.
All right, I'd like to thank the committee once again and the co-chairs for providing me an opportunity to provide clarity and, more importantly, the facts of the situation. Thank you.
Correct. So the check was supposedly written and mailed but never received.
So we have a question
Yes.
on the table.
Go ahead. But state your question, doing well.
I'm more for personal information.
No, I
I want to know
understand.
what's going on. As a committee member, not as, it says KCNA paid Cellcom $8,532,690.35 for the replacement HUDs. That's what he's saying he never got, right?
Correct.
So we've got something on paper saying they sent it, but they never got it, right?
That's what's stated. Stated in the letter in writing, and yes.
Who signed the letter? Is there anything, maybe this ought to be done in private, but I want to know how we got this information.
Mr. Hendricks signed the letter.
Yes.
Thank
Doug
you.
Hendricks signed the letter, yes.
Thank you, former chair. It does say that the Commonwealth of Kentucky Communication Network Authority, Stuart Douglas Hendricks, signed the letter saying that it was mailed.
Is Mr. Hendricks here?
He is here.
All right, so you're going to testify.
Yes, Mr. Hendricks, if you could, please come forward. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. So state both your names for the record, and then we'll allow you to speak to those questions.
Thank you. I'm Doug Hendricks. I'm the Executive Director of KCNA, Kentucky Communications Network Authority.
And I am Adam Adkins, General Counsel for Kentucky Communications Network Authority.
Okay.
So I guess it's probably more appropriate for me to answer your questions than to try to answer everything that Mr. Kilby just told you.
Well, again, we want to stick with the huts. We want to stay with the huts and the checks and the payments of the huts, and this is what we're working on today. And again, if we get more details later, we'll discuss that. But today, we're talking about the huts.
Okay. Perhaps let Mr. Atkins go through the process of, which involved the Secretary of the Finance and Administration Cabinet.
Can you move your close?
I'll move closer, sorry.
Yes.
I'll let Mr. Atkins go through the process. There's a legal process that was involved in this at the Secretary's level at the Finance and Administration Cabinet. So I'll just let him kind of walk you through how the process for payment went.
Sure. I mailed the check. I'm the one that did it. I took it down to the post office. Apparently, that wasn't the best idea.
Could you move closer? Stay to your
According to
microphone.
Excelicom, mailing it wasn't the best idea, but I mailed it. I have the receipt for the certified mail here that I mailed back in July of last year. Followed up with the post office in Louisville, and I have this signature for the check from Excelicom's mail courier. So if they don't have it, and I trust Mr. Kilby to be honest here, and if they do not have it, apparently something happened to it from the time the mail carrier picked it up and by the time it was delivered there. I mean, I agree, that's an enormous problem. It's an enormous problem.
So,
But there-
so we've got we've got a question here by
Sure.
Senator Gergler, and just let him.
I wanna have my attorney ask that question.
Sure.
Well, I mean, if I owe you $100, I give you a check. I can look in my bank and see if it's been canceled. If it's
They have not
been-
cashed it.
Okay, then why don't you void it and get them another one? You just hand it to them.
Well, we could, and if they'll accept the 8.5, we'll do that today.
Problem solved.
Done.
All right.
Problem solved except for,
There's other problems. That was solved.
Not really.
not really, but there's also a $12 million appropriation.
There was a
with
$12
an $8
million
check.
request. And that also, I was involved in that request, and I can tell you how I came up for it. It was a budgetary earmark. We had some internal numbers. The problem with which we had was this has been an ongoing problem. We've wanted to buy the huts, and we couldn't get a number, and we get limited information. And I only wanted to come to this committee once to request the money. So I did a calculation, and I calculated a worst-case scenario, and then admittedly I added 10%. And I got to about 12.1 as to the worst-case scenario. Only wanted to come once. Understanding that the contractual capped price, but for very specific provisions, was $8.5 million. And I'll just refer to them generally. The capped price of the contract was 8.5. Excelicom now claims it's closer to 10.1, which again, we're happy to pay. They reference documentation supporting that. We've not seen it, and we've communicated them to a number of times that if they have the supporting documentation, we're happy to pay it. We've got the budgetary number, we want the HUDs, and we're happy to pay it. They have not provided it. And so the contract cap is at $8.5 million. We issued a check for $8.5 million. Their mail carrier signed for it. I presume they have it. If not, we've all got a major problem, and I can, A, issue another check, and B, send out the state police to investigate this mail carrier as to where that check is. I assume it is with them. I also called the mail clerk at the office, home office there, and she told me, hey, anything that, and I'll not expose the gentleman's name at this point, but anything that this gentleman gives me, I deliver directly to Excelicom, and I assumed that, as a matter of course, that happened in this situation. They claim they don't have the check.
Go ahead.
And this has been since when? When was the check issued?
The check was issued in July of
Okay,
last year.
this is ridiculous. And this is not directed at you.
Understand.
Okay, this is ridiculous. It's large dollar figures. People deal with this stuff all the time. And reading between the lines legally, it's ridiculous. And I understand people get put into their entrenchments, and I understand that there are strategies, tactics, and processes by which we deal with issues and deal with people. But this one is ridiculous, and it is not, there's nothing in it that sounds like it's isolated.
I would agree, and I would add to that. I think it's ridiculous behavior from a partner, and I'm sure Excelicom would say the same about us, and that's fair. I think it's even more ridiculous when you dig into the wholesaler change agreement, which allows for the transfer of these buildings, these 20 buildings. So basically, it's set up into 3 separate tranches, and you can buy tranche 1, you can buy tranche 2, you can buy tranche 3, and the contract acknowledges you can buy any one of them. What a partner would do, and if they really didn't have the check, they would communicate to us. They knew we sent the check. We've had a number of communications during hearings at the Franklin Circuit Court that we sent the check. They would have said, guys, I don't have the check, right? That's never been communicated to us but for today. If they truly didn't have it, then we would issue another one. And I would do that, again, I would do that today. If we had a disagreement as to the purchase price, what a partner would do would say, guys, we appreciate full payment of tranche 1, we appreciate full payment of tranche 2, and we appreciate the partial payment of tranche 3. That's what the contract requires. But instead, and again, I believe they're feigning that they don't have the check. Unlike Excelicom, I trust the U.S. Postal Service. I trust, this signature that their mail carrier picked it up. I trust that they have it. And it's clear, if it's just not sitting somewhere. It's not sitting on the floorboards of this gentleman's truck. It is somewhere, and I believe they have it.
Go ahead.
And I understand this is something that communication has to happen both directions. Effective communications have to happen, and this feels like a scotch that's been put in to deal with other issues between partners. Boy, I sure hope this gets figured out, and it sounds like you were calculating a little over 12, and I understand contract cap at 8 or 8.5. That's not what the calculation was. Surely we could get it worked out on tranche 1, tranche 2, and tranche 3, and I'm not at you. I don't know you.
Understand.
I don't know you. You're doing your job, and that's fine. I'll strike back to this is ridiculous that it's coming from the committee. You want to be here once. I'd like for you to be here once and move on. But I'm going to tell you this has put everything with KCNA and everything with Kentucky Wired and all the way back to its inception in a bigger question mark than it's ever been in my mind before, to the point of what else do we have and what else has come before this committee, and every appropriation request that comes through that's got those initials on it, I'll be looking at it with 6 times over.
Yeah, and let me assure you, and I appreciate that, and you should be the check and balance of it. I can assure you that KCNA is doing everything it can to minimize the cost of the taxpayers. It's doing everything it can to protect this tremendous asset for the people of the Commonwealth, and we're doing our best. And the fact that we asked for $12 million, I get it. We should have asked for what we needed, but we are protecting the Commonwealth and only paying out what we are obligated to pay out. If Excelicom believes it's entitled to 10-1, we anxiously await that documentation and would more than happy to send that.
Stan, I appreciate the job you're doing, and I hope you understand my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead, Senator.
Yes, I know who it is. Tony Roberts.
Microphone.
There was no employee at Excelicom or contractor by the name of
Senator Maiden, your microphone's not on.
So that's not an employee that you're aware of, or?
I've been CEO for 2.5 years. We've never had an employee or a contractor by the name of Tony Roberts.
So you would know, I don't know how big your company is, but you would know if that was your employee or not.
Yes, sir.
Tony Roberts picks up the mail for the entire building that Excelicom is housed in. He signs for every P.O. box there. The mail carrier there, the mail clerk at the office was well aware of who he was. She gave me a full detail of what he did and how he picked up the mail for every single one of them. He is authorized to sign for certified mail at their P.O. box. Whether the CEO knows him or not is irrelevant to me. That's who he is.
Interesting.
Senator Gurgley?
I'm gonna let my lawyer do the talking again.
Okay.
All right.
This is getting, another one, can I excuse this? This is a pissing match.
I think it is, if I could term it that way, I think it's an opportunity in the larger litigation for open fiber to be unnecessarily difficult. This is a very clear contract. It has very clear provisions. There are ways to have a good faith disagreement in this agreement. That's not what this is. This is not our partner acting in good faith.
The Secretary of the Finance and Administration Cabinet issued a determination that said the amount that was due was $8.5 million. The secretary issued that determination pursuant to the Model Procurement Code. That's the amount that we sent.
So I've got 2 or 3 in the queue here. I'm going to go to Senator Fromeyer.
Thank you for providing us a little bit of clarity. In our capital projects and bonds oversight, we're often trying to acknowledge what are the systems, what are the processes, and where is the delay. This is astounding that we're talking about an 11-month delay. And then the other piece that we're hearing is that there are some meaningful provisions that they're required to pay KCNA for efforts of sales of the dark fiber. Can you help us understand whether you've received any proceeds from the sales of other provisions that you're under contractual arrangement with this firm, Excelicom?
Yeah, Excelicom makes a payment every month for one dark fiber lease to the Center for Rural Development. That's the only money we receive. It's $450 a month. We have not received any money for lit fiber services, which is in a net basis rather than a gross basis as dark fiber is. So that's all that we've received is $450 per month. I can't remember how many months we've received it.
Go ahead.
And just in follow-up to my question, is it an unreasonable request for us to ask an accounting of your request for these capital projects and bonds that you're asking for the taxpayer to offer and your actual receipt and payout of those? I'm thinking
Yeah, that's something we'll be glad to do that. I can tell you off the top of my head, I can only think of 2 capital projects that we've done. There may have been others. The 2 I think of are the huts and the refresh that we've gone through now. We're working on that process now. But certainly we'll be glad to work with that and get that to you as quickly as we can.
And in fact, we'll invite you to our July 15th so that you can, July 29th. If you could have that submitted by July 15th, then you can be our guest on July 29th.
Okay. I've just asked that you have staff send that to me so that I've got a record of it and can put it in my calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Stager.
One of my questions was already answered previously about has the check been cashed, and if not, can we just void that and get something reissued? The other question that I had, though, was could you clarify for me again, when was the payment due?
There is no due date per se. We had the right to repurchase the huts in 2 different manners. One would be through an offset of revenue share, but as Executive Director Hendricks just noticed, there hasn't been any revenue share, but for the $450 per month. Or we had the right to issue a payment in full, and the payment in full is detailed within the wholesaler change agreement, and we could do that at any time.
May I follow up?
Yes.
So your agreement said that you could pay in full, which is what you did with this check.
So the agreement actually goes further than that. We could make partial payment in minimum installments of $100,000. We could pay it off in tranches, so we could buy a tranche in full, or we could pay the whole thing off in full. And so the budgetary request to you guys was to pay by all 3 tranches.
Okay, and that was the 8 point.
The budgetary request was a wild guess, for lack of a better way to phrase it. And then we asked for the documentation, and we asked for the purchase price. We weren't given it. They just basically gave us the 10.1 number with no documentation. And so we asked, when we got the 10.1, we asked, great, the contract says you can exceed the 8.5 with written permission. There's been some staff turnover and things like that, so I personally asked for, guys, I've searched our email records, I've searched all the records we have, I can't find any written permission to exceed the cap. And then their legal counsel responded that we were apparently at an impasse. And at that point, I initiated a dispute with the finance secretary because I couldn't get any documentation.
And this is for 3 tranches, correct?
3 tranches, that's correct.
So 8.5 was the cap. They came back with a 10.1 saying this is what it's going to cost. You sent them a check that they never, for 8.5?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Why would you send them a check for 8.5 if they told you the price was 10.1?
Because the contract caps it at 8.5. They came back and said, no, it's 10.1. I said, great, 10.1, give me the documentation that supports the 10.1.
And in the meantime, I'm going to send you the 8.5 is what you communicated?
No. So we never got any documentation. And so I informed them at that time, guys, I'm going to initiate a dispute with the finance secretary. We're going to go ahead and pay what we calculate as the cap of the purchase price. If she determines there's more, we're happy to send you more at the end of it. But here's the money with which we have now.
So the wholesale change agreement said the price is $7.75 million. They could go over by 10% without asking our written approval ahead of time. We asked them for a price. As Adam said, they didn't give us a price. So what we wanted to do was send them the amount of the money that we thought we knew they were entitled to. At a minimum, we think they were entitled to the $8.5 million. So that was the check that we sent to them.
And did you communicate to them, we're going to go ahead and drop this in the mail to you, this 8.5?
Yeah, they're aware.
Yes.
And you received communication?
We were notified that.
I'm sorry, could you please come back up so that we could get the mic on and we can have this for the record and
The
make
world's
sure
most awkward dais.
I think I'm fully convinced that we can figure this out because most things come down to a misunderstanding, and I'm hoping that's what this is, but I'd like to just have a conversation about it.
We received a communication from KCNA that it was their intent to purchase the huts or the shelters, but we have
Don't
never,
think your microphone's on. Would you pull it closer?
we received a communication from KCNA leadership that it was their intent to purchase the huts, but we have never received the alleged check or checks.
But this gentleman just said that he communicated to you all that he was going to go ahead and send you the 8.5.
What was communicated to us is that they wanted to purchase the huts.
Okay. So
I've communicated with their legal counsel that the check was sent. I've had a number of conversations, particularly with their local counsel about the check, trying to track it down, seeing if their allegation or their claim that they don't have it is true, to see if we could track it down. Never could get any confirmation, and so we've not issued another check.
We have not received a check or alleged checks.
it's clear that there's no money that's been received. But what I'm asking about right now is, do we have clear communication on both ends? This gentleman right here is saying that he has been in contact with your legal counsel. So he has written time, date, stamp documentation. That is the beauty of email these days, is it does it for us. And are you saying that that is not the case?
There has been correspondence between councils on a number of matters that are going through the dispute resolution. This specific matter I'll have to confirm with my outside counsel, but there has been communication on numerous matters.
I spoke most recently specifically with Chadwick McTighe, who's their
Okay.
local counsel. He and I had a conversation about it. He told me he would track it down. I've not heard any follow-up since. And Chad is one of the most well-respected attorneys in the state. I trust Chad, and I'm sure he would tell you the same.
Well, sometimes you have to come to a committee like this just to get the ball rolling. But if you don't mind, Chairman, I would like to make the request that everybody get together in a room, enough with the email at the back and the forth, and figure this out. And Representative Nemes had already asked the question that I had earlier about, the check. If we can get the appropriation made over to them for what you have already purchased, and you guys can make sure that you have that in your hands and then we can get that to the bank, then that addresses one issue kind of. The rest of the stuff, I'm not really sure what the role is that we're supposed to be playing. I feel like somebody's coming to mom right now and saying this is what, and I don't mean to say that in a demeaning way, but I do think this is a little uncomfortable that if
Sure.
we're saying we have documentation and you either have it or you don't. I mean, you can either pull up an email and say, here's the communications that we've tried to put forth, or you can't. And I'm a little confused as to why there's not more clarity on both ends.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had a number of conversations. Happy to, it is what it is. In addition to that, the proper legal steps at this point, the FAC secretary has already issued a determination that the purchase price is $8.5 million to the exact amount that we've sent. So the legal process, if Open Fiber disagrees with that, they have legal rights over at the Franklin Circuit Court, which they're more than well aware of because they've taken over things from the FAC determination there before. So if they'd like to include this and claim their additional $1.6 million, they're welcome to do so. And if the Franklin Circuit Court determines that we owe it, we're happy to pay it. But just doing nothing and feigning they don't have the check is not moving this forward.
Okay, I'll go to Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I had promised myself I would come here and be silent this first meeting. It seems to me that one thing is clear, and I think Representative Nemus and Representative Stalker have kind of hit to it. There's no question that legally they've received the check. If they've got an authorized agent that has signed for delivery, then they are in receipt of the check under the law. Now, the check has not been cashed, thank goodness, after 11 months. So I think this committee ought to urge the general counsel to today go down there and cancel that check. I think that'd be the most important, prudent thing to do. So that wherever that check is, that check doesn't go through the bank today. I think that's the most important thing that needs to be done. Once that's done, then I think KCNA and the Simlicon ought to get together and either do one or two things. Either have that check accepted, and then a new check can be issued. I do think if I were sending an $8.5 million check, I don't think I'd send it through U.S. mails. I would agree with that. I think I kind of hand deliver that check. I've hand delivered a lot of checks. I think that'd be the wise thing to do. Or if they don't want to accept that $8.5 million, then litigate it. Then litigate it. But I do think today, that $8.5 million is in the bank somewhere, that check ought to be canceled.
Here's where I'm going to respectfully disagree. They have the check. They have it. And they're just not doing anything with it because they think it gives them some sort of litigation advantage. And if we end up litigating this all goes back to years ago. And let me explain, and I appreciate it, and I'll just take another minute. How this all started in repurchasing the HUDs is Excelicom got into a disagreement with one of our third-party partners, and they would not allow MuniNet access to the HUDs out in West Kentucky. So,
Mr.
bear with me.
If I may interrupt.
Go ahead.
The item being brought up by Mr. Atkins has nothing to do with what your question was posed. And with all due respect to Mr. Atkins, I can unequivocally state we do not have the check.
The check ought to be canceled. That check ought to be canceled today.
Okay, we'll go to Senator.
So with our intent
Senator Furlong.
to have a meaningful committee reviewing the remainder of our agenda items, I'm going to ask one final question. Because I recognize that we're actually here for our constituents. And it seems that there are third parties that aren't receiving service. And if these services are leaving large areas of Kentucky without access to network for months. I represent rural Bracken, rural Pendleton. They had a young person run over during a parade. They couldn't get a call out. If these are the sorts of things, somewhere along the way, we've lost sight that we've got work to do. I'm boiling at this very moment because it seems to me that we're letting systems and processes trump the care of the whole purpose for Kentucky Wired. This is enraging. So we'll see you next month, but we would like some real clarity because this is enraging. And if 4+ million Kentuckians aren't frustrated, I'd be surprised. This is very upsetting.
Senator, if I may, I am also outraged. The false allegations, the false assertions, and the threats that have been made by KCNA in documentation to our customers have put lives at jeopardy, have put children at jeopardy, and have put businesses at jeopardy, as well as the constituents of the Commonwealth. So we are as outraged, if not more outraged, as you, ma'am.
Okay, Senator Gergler.
I don't have, other than the fact we got two people that are saying the exact opposites of everything, and we're supposed to be giving money out, not being in the middle of the distribution of it. We give you $12 million, which undoubtedly was too much. I'm going to suggest that we get 3 or 4 million of that back. 3.6.
Yeah,
But I swear to you, I don't know how to explain it other than this is childish, that we are fighting, and y'all can sit there, write him a check. I'd say you're 180 days, as far as stopping the check. Every check I ever get, it says it's null and void after 180 days. So that check ain't worth a crap if anybody takes it to the bank. This is...
the Treasury has different rules than 180 days, but I understand the point.
Yeah, but I'm going to let him say one thing, and then
What do you want me to say?
or whatever you want to say.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that if I'm his counsel, I've not gotten payment for representation.
I understand.
It's what's free gratis?
Checks
What's
in the
that?
mail.
What they say? It's yeah, he's pro bono.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't have much to add. I would just say I think it's been beaten to death. The issue is here that we've got 8.5 that's definitely owed. The cabinet thought that that was not the cap on the contract, or you wouldn't have requested 12.1 in the first place. So
We hadn't asked for the cap at the time.
Yeah,
We didn't know what it was going to be. We'd asked for the purchase price. But
I understand.
we weren't
But
getting
at some point you thought you could go above the cap, or you wouldn't have asked for more than
we know we
8.5.
could go above the cap. The contract specifically allows you to go above the
Okay.
cap for very specific reasons.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So, I mean, this is the simplest thing for this particular issue. I think everybody knows this is a hundreds of millions of dollars question that y'all got massive litigation going on. A lot of us up here do not think that you guys are operating in the best interest of of the citizens and everything that you do. You guys are squabbling over every single thing. You've done it for a couple of years. You need to go to a mediator in good faith, both sides.
We did
sit
that.
down and resolve. You need to sit down in good faith and resolve this issue. I'd like to talk to the mediator to make sure both sides were there in good faith. But this is a question that will long surpass most of us, will certainly surpass Governor Beshear, his administration. It's going to last much longer than that. And hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of the taxpayers are in jeopardy. And so this little $8.5 million issue, it shows a bunch of silliness and childishness. But this is pennies as to what we're talking about overall. You guys need to resolve this matter, and not through years of litigation. It needs to be resolved, I think, at a mediation. And I want to talk to the mediator to make sure that both sides came in good faith. But this particular discrete matter should be resolved by Friday. And when you come back next week, you should be able to say by that Friday it was over with. But this is a massive issue overall. And this is not how we need to be doing business on behalf of the Kentucky taxpayer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair Petrie.
Actually, Senator Girdler's already kind of hit it. 3.6 million. So we're going to short that back out of the next budget cycle. You don't need it. 8.5.
Absent any documentation from the wholesaler. Now, again, the contract specifically allows them to exceed the cap. We've asked for the documentation. If they provide that documentation and provide the written approvals, we're happy to pay it. So we believe that the purchase price is 8.5. They have not provided the documentation, and Mr. Kilby claims he has it. I would love to have it. I've asked for it a number of times.
And that was at 10.1 or 10.2?
That is their most recent number, yes.
Okay, so we've still got money we can short back out of the next budget.
Absolutely. And again, we are stewards of the taxpayers' money, and we'll only pay out what we owe.
And we are. And we've had 3 people use terms ridiculous, stupid, asinine to be a word that I've got. Look, it's attorney work going on, and I understand it. Both of you are playing in a body of water that you're not the biggest fish in, and you just don't realize it yet. Work it out. Figure it out. I understand the approaches. I won't say games, tactics, strategies, and stuff like that. Just the approaches. Understood. There are a lot of issues here. This is something that's going to continue for years, regardless of whether you're sitting at the table, or somebody else is sitting at the table. You figure this one out or not.
Yeah, and respectfully, if we're talking about working out this issue, I'm happy to. Mr. Kilby says he has the documentation. I'll expect it sometime by the end of the week. And if they can document written approval and accurate accounting for the money, we'll issue a new check. But absent that, I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, so you have no way out of it. If you don't get that, if you don't get the additional documents, I can't do anything. There's already been FAC has already said what they've got. It's 8.5. Cut the check again, hand another one, duplicate, whatever.
Absolutely.
You're finished, move on, let the court system work it out, and in 3 years we'll be back figuring out what happened. That's pathetic way of doing business in Kentucky, I expect better. I expect better. I don't think I speak by myself on this. I expect better. There is an answer for everything, but there is not an answer or response for my expectation to do better.
And if we're talking about
Thank you, Mr.
the
Chair.
wholesaler contract
Thank
in
you.
general, that's a different topic. If we're talking
Okay.
about the HUD issue,
Senator Thomas?
I have nothing further to say. I mean, I think it's been said all about committee members. And again, I follow what Representative Deacon said. Cancel the check, get him a new one, put it in his hand, and then if he doesn't accept it, then cancel that check.
So I've got one question here. Doing business, I'm a real estate appraiser by trade. I go to banks and tell them, and I can go out and look at pieces of property and tell them what percent complete it is and how much money they should release. Do you all have change orders or documentation? Why would you authorize changes or request changes without proper documentation and change orders as you go through the process?
yeah, so
You're dealing with taxpayers' money.
it's Section 9 of the wholesaler agreement, and I think the wholesaler change agreement, I think that we've provided it to you. So if you look at Section 9, that is the provision in which you're talking about. We had it, and that's the documentation in which we're,
So then you should have that documentation
We do
along
not.
the way.
yeah, and we did not.
Did you request these changes?
We have.
You requested the
No, no,
changes to be made.
I'm confused on what you're asking me for.
So originally the cap of the 8.5 million, did you request changes to be made above and beyond that would cause the contract to be greater than that?
And I want to be clear, we don't have the documentation that justifies the 8.5. That was an act of good faith on behalf of KC&A. They just have a claim that they spent 8.1. We've not actually seen any documentation that justifies any of it.
And Mr. Chairman, as I stated previously, KC&A requested changes both orally as well as an email. Those KC&A understood at the time that work being requested of Open Fiber was outside of the original contract and the scope of work for these particular huts. There were ongoing calls that took place throughout the week. In many instances, some of this took place before this quote-unquote change or PCS process or PCI process existed. So there are meeting minutes and there are numerous things in writing clarifying the request from the Commonwealth.
And I understand you all got things in place today, but this is a state doing business that does business every day. Can we not do business in the fact that we have a paper trail, that you have a contract to do a certain amount of work, and then if you have a change order that asks for more work, you have an agreed price on that before you move forward?
We do that every day in this
That's what I'm
project.
saying. Most everybody does it every
in this
day.
project. This wholesaler change agreement said the price was $7.75 million. Anything over and above 10%, they had to receive our prior written approval to proceed on the work. We've requested that information. They've not provided it to us.
Did you ask for that work to be done? Did you ask for more work to be done than was
Not
originally?
that I'm aware of.
Not that he's aware of, but the answer is yes.
Mr. Were you even here? When did
Let's
you start?
whoa. Let's not go there. Let's talk to us. Let's talk to us here. So let's just wrap it up, and we'll come back in 30 days, and we'll have some more clarity. But I please, like it's been asked, go and work this out. Go back and come in good faith, and go to and negotiate this out before you have to come back before us. There's no reason for this. You've been doing it for 11 months. This affects a lot of people. Work this out, please. Thank you all. All right, we have Elizabeth Baker before us. She's here in person from University of Kentucky. Is that correct? Maybe we'll take the tone down just a little. All right, we have before us an agenda number 4, lease requesting requiring action. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Baker. I represent the University of Kentucky. I'm here for a lease, which is for the UK Healthcare's speech language pathology clinic. It will be at 135 Maxwell Street, which is across the street from Good Samaritan. It is 3,694 square feet at an annual cost of $136,678, and it includes utilities.
Okay. Is this, what's the terms? Is it 1 year? 1 year?
Yes, sir.
1 year lease?
1 year,
Okay.
and then we will,
Reevaluate?
we're going to be reevaluating all those leases.
This is off of an 8-year lease, I think.
Yes,
Before.
we've been there quite a while. This is our first, I think it was 8 years, yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. See any other member have a question? If not,
I'll make the motion.
motion made and second to go ahead. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Senator Girdler,
I vote aye, and thank you for being so sweet.
Senator Maiden, Senator Thomas, Representative Petrie,
Yes.
Representative Stalker,
Yes.
Representative Thomas,
Aye.
Co-Chair Fromeyer,
Aye.
Chair McPherson.
Yes. So it is approved, and thank you, Ms. Baker, for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think before us now, we have Ms. Janice Thomas in person. And Ms. Thomas is here, represent the agent's agenda on item number 5, 2 appropriation increases requiring action, and 2 pool allocations requiring no actions. Do I hear a motion to roll the first 2 that require action? So moved. Moved. Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Thomas. Anybody object? No objections. We'll consider it rolled, and you can go forward.
Thank you.
You can go forward with the 2 that require action, then we'll vote on them, and then we'll go to the ones that require no action.
Okay, sounds good. Good afternoon. My name is Janice Thomas, Deputy State Budget Director. As you mentioned, I'm reporting 4 projects. The first 2 are actually line item projects that were previously approved in a budget bill. And the authority for the increases is within KRS 45.760, paren 6A. And the other 2 are pool projects, well, I'll get to in a minute. The authority for those authorizations are in the budget bill, paragraph 4 of part 2. But beginning with the Department of Education dormitory cottage renovation project, it's an appropriation increase of $4,400. And it's going to be funded from the 24-26 maintenance pool, bringing the total appropriation to $504,400. This increase will address modifications required by the electrical inspection and correction of an unanticipated condition that was discovered in the floors. That's the first one. The second project is the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet, Department of Juvenile Justice, Renovate Louisville Detention Center project appropriation increase in the amount of $3,827,600 funded from the Capital Construction Investment Income Fund. The increase represents a 9.8% of the 38.9 that was authorized in the budget bill of the existing appropriation, bringing the total appropriation to $42,727,600. And the reason for this increase was to award the competitive low bid. So this was bid out competitively, and this was the lowest bid of those competitive bids. And so accepting the lowest bid was an increase of the 3.8 and some change.
Okay, do we have any questions? Senator Nemus? Representative Nemus.
Yeah, Representative,
Not
don't
today.
demote me to the Senate.
All right, all right.
So, Director Thomas, thank you for coming today. This is an issue that's extremely important across the Commonwealth, and certainly in the 3 counties that I represent, in Jefferson, Oldham, and Shelby County. We're sending our kids who go to get committed in juvenile facilities. Most of them are going to Adair County, which is hours away from, obviously, Jefferson, Oldham, and Shelby counties, and the other counties that should be going to Jefferson County. Why is it taking so long? The mayor, they gave us this building. Why is it taking years to get this constructed? So can you let us know what was the cause of the delay, and then more importantly, what's the timeline going forward? Because we need this open as soon as we could possibly get it open.
Okay, if I could, I would like to bring Scott Baker to the table.
Mr. Baker, just state your name for the record and you may proceed.
Scott Baker, Division of Engineering. So the project is under contract now with the contractor. The substantial completion date per the contract is currently April 17th of 2027. That's how long it will take to renovate the building in downtown Louisville because of the location of the building. The design process on this particular project wasn't that much longer than normal, even though the complexities of this project are pretty high because of what we were doing inside a building, totally repurposing the building. There was originally some discussions on whether Jefferson County was going to remain partially in the building or whether they were leaving completely, which complicated the design part on the front end. We finally got those items resolved. We're able to push forward with design, and then budget constraints from the original appropriation additionally complicated the issue of being able to design the project to fit within the appropriated funds. And the project that we're putting forward now does not address the third floor of the building at all. So there's some code requirements that we had to do, obviously, to make that area compliant with the rest of the building. But again, the complications of designing a project inside an existing building to serve juvenile justice youth is extremely complicated, and that's probably what lent to the design extension more than anything.
Okay.
Just those
Mr. Chairman.
complications.
Go ahead.
So thank you for that. I would note, I think we've given every dollar that's been requested on this matter.
Yes.
And so if it wasn't in the budget, it wasn't because the General Assembly didn't appropriate it. It was,
I wasn't
okay.
not
I know
implying that
you
at all.
didn't say that. I just wanted to make sure. And this is a massively important facility, not just I want to make sure for Louisville, because a lot of the kids across Kentucky will go here. And I know the building does more than just incarcerate people. It's about education. It's about the treatment for abuse, trauma, substance abuse, anger abuse, whatever it is. And so I understand all those things. I would say that we have to move with haste because look what happened, and obviously is in the process right now, litigation in Adair County when there were gang rapes. There were several employees who are in ICU or one of them for over a week. And all these kinds of things are because our facilities aren't in part because our facilities are not up to what they need to be. And this facility needs to be moved as quick as possible. The question I have is this. Substantial completion is April 17, 2027.
Yes, sir.
Is there any opportunities for usage of the building before the whole thing is done?
No.
I know there. Okay, so it has to be all done before we can.
Yes.
Okay, so April 17th, 2027. And my strong request would be, whip this thing. Get it done in April or before of 2027. We need this building as quickly as we can get it. And I want to thank the city of Louisville for gifting the building to us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Fromeyer.
Yes, and thank you for being here. I also sit on Budget Review Subcommittee for Justice and Judiciary. So we're discussing high acuity needs, and we've recognized that it's quite costly to build an entirely separate building. Is there the opportunity with the redesign and the understanding or perhaps repurpose of some of the space no longer needed for some administrative purposes? Is this something that we can dig into a little bit deeper, perhaps even offline, but is this an opportunity to house the high acuity juvenile?
Within this footprint, that high acuity is a whole nother level. It's high acuity. It's a whole nother level of design and security measures and so forth that have to be in place that I don't think it would be compatible to this location. We can certainly look into it and see, but just a quick answer, that's probably not going to be the best solution dollar-wise to try to force that into this socket.
And thank you. And as I was asking the question, I'm recognizing I shouldn't be asking you that question. That's not your responsibility, but thank you.
Okay, does anybody else, any other member of? Chair Petrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this project actually started in the 23 session, I believe. That's when it was talked about. 24, the funding went out. I think the transactional part was started in 23. There was an estimate given to me in the 23 session. I think, I won't say from whom, but there was an estimate given that it had a 15 to 20% unexpected category. Then we're going to be going about another 10% above that. First part is just for the record, so anybody that might be listening to this and listening to the prior session that we had, prior issue, boy, these estimates are really going to have some form and substance to them as they try to make their way through budget discussions moving forward. So everyone be ready for, if you don't have a very, very detailed, this is not y'all, y'all are on the back end of this, very, very detailed estimate that's believable, then it's going to have a hard time getting through. Second part is this, because of the increase in the 9 point whatever today, you mentioned the third floor is not being finished out. Is there another phase or another cost increase expected with this project, anticipated in any form or fashion?
That will most likely be a future project requested by Justice Cabinet to address the third floor.
See my comment from part 1. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else any other member have a question, comment? If not, we will vote on the two that require action. So I would entertain a motion. So moved by Senator Gergler. Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Thomas. All those are, Madam Secretary, will you do a roll call?
Senator Girdler.
Aye.
Senator Maiden. Aye. Senator Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Petrie.
Yes.
Representative Stalker.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer.
No.
Chair McPherson.
Yes. All right. So it does pass. And we'll go on to the two pool items that require no action.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, Department of Behavioral Health, the Oak Improved Drainage and Address Erosion Issue Project in the amount of $1,352,400, funded from the 24-26 maintenance pool. This project will address both sinkholes and drainage issues for the entire campus. Last is the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet, Kentucky State Police Information Services Center Roof and Interior Renovation Project in the amount of $2,898,300, funded from the 24-26 maintenance pool. This funding will be used to replace the roof and complete necessary interior work, including partitions, paint, flooring, and other general repairs in the Information Center in Frankfort, Kentucky. The State Police Information Center houses critical statewide services such as open records, intelligence, concealed deadly weapons licensing, computer technologies, sex offender registry, and criminal background information, and is the repository for case reports and records. And that concludes the report today.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? If not, thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next we have remote. We have Natalie Broner. She's here remote with the Vision of Real Properties.
Good afternoon.
Are you there? Yes, ma'am. So state your name for the record and you can proceed.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Bronner, and I'm the director of the Division of Real Properties.
Ma'am, could I just stop you right here and say we do
Yes.
have a couple of things that require action, and I would request this time if we have a motion to roll those. So moved by Senator Gergler, and
Second.
do I have a second by
Yeah.
Senator Fromeyer. Any opposed? Let's see, do we have to do a roll call? No, okay, thank you. All right, then go forward with the ones we require action. Go ahead, I'm sorry, the floor is yours
Okay.
again.
Thank you so much. First item today is for the Cabinet for Health and Family Services Department for Community-Based Services. I have 2 lease renewals that are at the same terms and conditions, which are over $100,000 annually and being reported pursuant to KRS 56-823-2. The first is PR 4849 in Clark County for 10,946 square feet at $10 per square foot, or $109,460 annually through June 30th, 2026. The next is PR 5300 in Kenton County for 57,325 square feet at $15.45 per square foot, or $885,671.24 annually through June 30th, 2026. The next item that I have is a tenant improvement fund request for the Energy and Environment Cabinet for the 300 building located in Franklin County for PR 5411. Per KRS 56-813 2D, I'm reporting a leasehold improvement for electric and cabling to 12 locations on the second and third floors for television installation and meeting rooms of the 300 building. 3 quotes were obtained, and the agency recommended the low bid as submitted by CRM companies for $12,198, and these improvements will be paid for by the Energy and Environment Cabinet. Any questions on those?
Okay, do I have any questions from? If none, then I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by. All right, Senator. Motion made by Representative Thomas and seconded by Senator Thomas. All right. Please call the roll.
Senator Girdler.
Aye.
Senator Maiden. Aye. Senator Thomas. Aye. Representative Petrie.
Yes.
Representative Stalker.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Chair McPherson.
Yes. All right, so that passes, and then the floor is back to you for the portion that requires no action.
Thank you so much. The last item I'm reporting today is lease modification for the Office of Legal Services for PR 5872 in Franklin County. We located same term space under 56-813-1 and are leasing 5,070 square feet of space at $12.90 per square foot. We did have renovations that were necessary there to accommodate the agency, which included paint, carpet, creation of an exterior door, electrical, concrete, and window treatments. 2 estimates were secured, and the lessor agreed to absorb a large portion of the renovation cost, with the agency's remaining portion being $36,224.24. This cost will be amortized through the lease term of June 30th, 2031, and this is being reported pursuant to KRS 56-823-11. And that concludes my presentation.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Remotely again, we have Miller Denman. And
Yes,
he's
good
with,
afternoon.
yes, with the Kentucky Infrastructure. So if you'll state your name for the record. And let's see.
You want to roll all these together?
Yes, let's see. Hang on just a second. Authority, we've got 7A, sewer, water, and loans, clearing water that requires action, and line sewer that requires no action. So I would entertain a motion to roll the ones that require action this time.
Make a motion.
So, motion made and seconded, properly seconded. Any objection? Not, we'll consider those rolled, and you can go ahead with your testimony on the ones that require action, and then we'll vote on those, and then you can go to the ones that require no action. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and Committee. I'm Millward Dedman, Deputy Executive Director with the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. Pursuant to KRS 224A.100, the authority will present 4 loans and 9 grants for the committee's review. The first loan is a Fund A Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan to the Regional Water Resource Agency. The agency's Fund A loan in the amount of $20 million is for the Locust Force Main Replacement Rehabilitation Project. The project will replace or rehabilitate 11,000 linear feet of 30-inch force main connecting the Locust and Dublin pump stations to the Max Roads wastewater treatment plant, serving 6,374 residential, commercial, and industrial parcels. As part of a combined sewer system, it also conveys stormwater runoff from 1,544 acres. This will be a 20-year loan with a 1.25% interest rate and was approved at the June 5th KIA board meeting. The next loan is a Fund B loan to the City of Bardstown. The City of Bardstown's Fund B loan in the amount of $3,200,000 for the Gunning Sewer Pump Station and Force Main Upgrade Project. The project will upgrade the existing 200-gallon per minute station to a 600-gallon per minute station and replace 4-inch force main with 3,970 feet of linear feet of 8-inch sewer force main. 9 new manholes will also be installed, as well as 1,030 linear feet of 12-inch gravity sewer to direct the wastewater to the new Gunning Sewer Lift Station. This will also be a 20-year loan with a 1.25% interest rate and was approved at the June 5th KIA board meeting. The third loan is another Fund B loan to the City of Everett. This Fund B loan in the amount of $226,000 for lift station renovation project. The project will consist of the renovation of the 7 lift stations in the city's sewage collection system. This will include some minor repairs at the wastewater treatment plant as well. This will be a 20-year loan with a 0.50% interest rate and was approved at the June 5th KIA board meeting. And the last loan is a Fund F, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund loan to the City of Jamestown. Jamestown's Fund F loan in the amount of $182,255 for their lead service line inventory project. This project consists of a comprehensive inventory of each service connection within the system to determine the service line materials on both sides of the meter. This will be a 100% principal forgiveness loan and was approved at the KIA June 5th KIA board meeting. Today, KIA is reporting 7 grant fund projects from the Cleaner Water Program. From round 1, Senate Bill 36 of the 2021 session, there are 2 grants. The sewer grant consists of 1 reallocation from the supplemental pool, and the water grant consists of 1 reallocation from the county allocation pool. From round 2 of the Cleaner Water Program, House Bill 1 of the 2022 session, there are 5 grants. 1 sewer grant consists of 1 reallocation from the county allocation pool, and the water grant consists of 4 reallocations from the county allocation pool. These are my loans and grants for today.
Okay, do I hear any questions from any of the members? None. We have none, then I'd entertain a motion. Motion made by Representative Thomas. Do I hear a second? Second made. All right. Please call the roll.
Senator Girdler. Senator Maiden. Senator Thomas. Representative Petrie.
Yes.
Representative Stalker.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Chair McPherson.
Yes. All right, so it passes, and you can now proceed with the ones that require no action.
Okay, from the 2024 regular session, House Bill 1 line item grants, the authority is reporting 2 sewer grants, 1 to the city of Lewisburg for $3.9 million and 1 to Springfield Water and Sewer Commission for $1.5 million. And this concludes my report.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Senator Maiden and Representative Girdler, or Senator Girdler. We don't need a motion for it requires no action. That's what I thought. Requires no action. All right. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
So now we have Ms. Chelsea Couch, and she'll be here, and she'll talk about item number 7B and 7C, and then the issues, and then we'll have 4 SFCC debt issues requiring action, and we have 2 previous debt issues requiring no action. So, Ms. Couch, please identify yourself and go ahead with the ones that require action. Do we need to roll those?
SFCC later.
Yeah, we'll do the first one, and then we'll do the SFCC later. We'll roll those. So go ahead and do the first one, and then we'll vote on it, and then we'll take up the issue of rolling the remainder of the ones that require action. So you can go ahead and proceed at your will.
Okay. My name is Chelsea Couch. For your review today, I have a transaction from the Kentucky Housing Corporation multifamily conduit revenue bonds. Just over $49 million for the, excuse my pronunciation of this, Wabuck Western Kentucky portfolio. Bonds will be used to finance the acquisition, construction, rehabilitation, and equipping of the Wabuck Western Kentucky portfolio, consisting of 4 bond issues with an aggregate of 6 multifamily residential rental facilities containing an aggregate of 312 total units. This is a private placement with U.S. Bank as the purchaser, and I do have Terry Helton online for any questions, and she can kind of give you more of an overview of this transaction.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? If not, I have a question or two, if you could address. So we've got a $92 million ask. Is that accurate? And about 312 units. Would that be an accurate statement?
I'm showing a $49 million ask. Terry, correct me if I'm wrong.
Total project itself.
Yes, it's 49
Yeah,
million.
the total project is 92. Okay, the 41 or so you have $49 million for 312. Is that correct?
Yes.
Units. Okay. So we know what that is. So does that complete? Does that complete those 312 units, and would they be rentable at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
That takes care of the construction cost, the capital stack for all those units. This is one portfolio that Wabuck Construction is bringing into the Western Kentucky.
It's 92 million for the 312. 42 is just the bond portion.
Okay. So the 92 is for the 312 units, though. Is that correct? And the 49 is just for the bond portion?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So that's where I was. Yeah. So that's my calculation. 297,000 per unit. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Could you speak to the fact of were these let out for bid, or how was this process? So I'm a real estate appraiser by trade, and I do appraise property. I'm a commercial appraiser and appraise units around the Bowling Green area. And this seems extraordinarily high, possibly more than double what the market says these apartments usually sell for. Could you address that, please?
So in September of 2024, we did a tax-exempt bond NOFA for the Western Kentucky disaster area for those counties that were specifically hit by the tornadoes. We had several applications to come into that NOFA. And so by a selection criteria that we have in that NOFA, those were the ones that were selected along with some others in that area.
But was it a bid process?
A bid process, we do a selection criteria for those applications that do come in, yes. So they have to meet certain preferences. They have a criteria that they have to meet, yes.
Did you all think this was high for the area?
If I may, Terry, I think we might not be answering the exact question that the committee member is asking. I'm Wendy Smith, also with Kentucky Housing Corporation. I want to make it clear, we did not bid out for the construction costs for this project. That's not how our project funding works. We did a competitive process to allocate bonds, which also then allows a project to get what are called 4% housing tax credits. So it was competitive based on counties in Western Kentucky impacted by the tornadoes. And this also involves CDB, Community Development Block Grant disaster recovery dollars, as well as some other HUD dollars. So what's important to know is we don't bid out the construction, the developer does. A state procurement process is not required when a private developer is developing the units. In addition, there is what I like to call a 50-pound brick of federal requirements tied to every disaster recovery dollar that requires Davis-Bacon wage reporting, environmental review, just lots and lots of things that add to the time and the cost, unfortunately, but are non-negotiable. So I realize that when you look at this compared to a market rate unit, it seems very high. We have a load of federal regs, and in addition, these units have to be affordable permanently to low-income households, which means that they cannot support a lot of debt with rent, so they've got to have a lot of funding to keep their debt very, very low. And if there's anything else, Luis Diaz, I know, is on the call and he's involved with the financing. I just want to make sure that you all know we do not bid out the construction part of this. Thank you.
Yes, so I appreciate that answer, and I understand that when you get federal regulations involved, it always increases cost. And if you're going to permanently, for perpetual, making these low rent area, is there any infrastructure that goes along with this? Was there any rebuilding of roads or sewer or anything that would be an added cost to this above and beyond a normal project?
There are site costs, so we don't fund with our dollars. The CDBG-DR may be funding roads and that kind of stuff. Our funds and our bonds can only be for improvements on site. So there will be sewer, water, utilities, underground utilities and infrastructure, but only on the housing site itself. It's possible that the money coming from DLG funded a little bit off-site, but ours is not allowed to cover off-site infrastructure. It does cover land purchase, though, which is also an added expense.
So you did say this was going on in perpetual for low-income housing. Is there a metrics that's going to be involved here of what are they going to pay 80% market rent? Are they going to pay 75% market rent? Is there anything that's perpetually going to go forward with this?
Absolutely. This is very prescribed by HUD, and our program is an IRS program. A treasury program that prescribes what rents can max out at, and they have to be affordable to folks in each county. So it changes county to county because incomes are different. It's 60% of area median income or below, depending on if there are any other funds in the project. So folks have to be of very modest incomes, and the rents will be fixed. So the amount of rent that can be charged and the incomes of the folks that can live there will perpetually be limited.
Would this be similar to Section 8 housing?
I mean, a lot of people would think that, but this is not going to be publicly owned, and it's not going to have rent assistance tied to it. So it will be just folks who earn low incomes and cannot pay a lot of rent, but there's not a rent assistance payment. Again, that's why the debt needs to be really low, because there's not going to be that stream of Section 8 revenue coming in.
Okay. Any other questions? Senator?
As you were sharing the variable that 4% would be off of the total market value or the total $300K that we're looking at. So help me understand, does it then benefit the developer to inflate the cost of development?
Luis, do you want to talk about the 4% tax credit just to clarify how that works and how that helps the project?
Sure. My name is Luis Diaz. I'm a partner with Dinsmore and Scholl, and we are bond counsel on this transaction. Madam Chair, I think it's important to note, or it's worth at least stating for the record, There is a $49,050,000 bond issue associated with this transaction. That is a private activity bond. Repayment of that debt is not an obligation of the Commonwealth. It is exclusively the obligation of the developer. And to that end, there's no incentive to them to increase or inflate the debt because it is their responsibility to repay the debt. The bond on its face will have in bold print that neither Kentucky Housing Corporation, the Commonwealth, any county or city in the Commonwealth are responsible for repayment of the debt obligation. It is the developer's obligation. The issuance of the bond, utilizing private activity bonds for this type of activity does leverage federal low-income housing tax credits as a matter of right. And as long as KHC allocates bond tax-exempt private activity bond cap to this activity, they will generate private equity through the syndication of what's called the 4% tax credit. And if you look at Exhibit B in project sources, you'll find a line item for investor equity and on a project by project basis. And that is money that would otherwise not exist for each project, but for the utilization of the tax exempt bond. So for the Mayfield project of 56 units, there's $5.9 million of private equity investment that's really being generated through the allocation of tax credits. But the only way you get the tax credit is if you use the bond proceeds. And again, neither KHC nor the Commonwealth of Kentucky is responsible for the repayment of the bond indebtedness.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do I have any other questions? So I would entertain a motion to approve this as presented. Senator Thomas made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll make a second.
Second by Senator Fromeyer. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Senator Girdler. Aye. Senator Maiden. Aye. Senator Thomas. Aye. Representative Petrie. Representative Stalker.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Chair McPherson.
No. All right, it does pass, and then we'll go on to the next items, and I will entertain a motion for the SFCC items to be rolled.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion made and second. Any opposed? If not, then we will consider those rolled, and you can go forward with your testimony. Thank you.
Okay. I have 4 issuances for SFCC to present today, starting with Edmonson County for $12,515,000. Major renovations at South Edmonson Elementary and site work for a new Kentucky Rock Elementary. SFCC portion, or the state portion, is about 8.2%, with an average annual debt service of just over $75,000. Next, I have Jefferson County. This is a refunding for $9.5 million. This is 100% state supported. They're refunding the 2015 series. Annual debt service for this will be $1.2 million. Estimated savings, it looks like on this, is around $477,000, just over 4% of the bond issue. I have Mason County for $2.2 million, improvements at the high school, Straub Elementary School, and an intermediate school. The state portion on this is 31.22%. Average annual debt service payment, just over $53,000. And lastly, I have McCracken County for just over $21 million for a gym and additional classroom space at Heath Elementary School, a classroom wing and addition at Concord. The state portion of this is right at 6%, average annual debt service payment of $90,351.
All right. Do I hear any questions? If none, I would entertain a motion. Motion made by Representative Thomas. Second by Senator Thomas. Madam
Senator Girdler. Senator Maiden. Senator Thomas. Representative Petrie. Representative Stalker.
Yes.
Representative Thomas.
Aye.
Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Chair McPherson.
Yes. Okay, we have a couple of previous debt issues I think that you need to go through that requires no action, so if you'll go forward with them, we'd appreciate it.
I have two informational items, starting with the University of Louisville. This sold back in April and closed in May. It looks like a net interest cost of 4.6%. It was constructing student commons and recreational fields and a speed school and engineering building. This finance project's identified in House Bill 6 of the 2024 budget, and that is sold. Next, I have the Kentucky Asset Liability Commission. It's a refunding issuance, just over almost $22 million, sold in May, closed earlier this month. We did do this as a competitive pricing, 3.2%, which we thought was good. There was only 2 maturities outstanding, and we had present value savings of $552,000.
Okay.
And that concludes today.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? If not, we appreciate your testimony today, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So we are stand adjourned. Well, before we stand adjourned, we will come back July the 29th, and Senator Fromeyer will be chairing at that time.
You've been warned.
I've been warned, yes. Thank you.